It's not. It is a sling of skeletal muscle. So it is just a sling of musculature. It holds your guts in from below. So not very, maybe not very glamorous, but that's a real important function. And so another girl was like, "Oh, so it's responsible for the three P's: peeing, pooping, and penetration." There it is. That's what happens in the pelvic floor. So it is wildly important. And furthermore, it is a functional part of our core support. So it is connected to back pain, to hip pain, to breath, because it's the bottom of that entire core unit. And if you watch us on YouTube, I know you can't on a podcast see this, but you will see me teach with this lovely pelvis model all the time. Because it's really nice to get that perspective. But I know on a podcast, you can't see that. Go to our YouTube channel. We have tons of teaching on all the questions you're probably afraid to Google.
No, but they'll be able to see on Spotify, they'll be able to see our video too.
Perfect.
If you want to show them a little bit, because I feel like when someone describes pelvic floor, I finally came to, this is what I made up in my own head. So just, it might not be right. But when you're sitting on a horse saddle, like that area, that's your pelvic floor muscle, right?
Perfect.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. And technically, if you want to get really technical, it's like if you're looking at a textbook, there are different muscles with different names. But the pelvic floor is like they use the rotator cuff for the shoulder is a set of 4 muscles. Yeah. The pelvic floor is a set of multiple muscles. But like here's your looking from the side, here's your lower spine, there's your tailbone, there's your like if you put your hands on your hips, you're putting them here. Yeah. Here's the pubic bone where the pelvis comes together in the front. Here's the genitals. And this is all this red stuff. This is the bones that you sit on, right? You're exactly right. There's the saddle goes right here. So there's rectum. So this is all that red stuff is the musculature of the pelvic floor.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So it's like not something no one ever really thinks about. I always thought it was something weird. Like I was like pelvic floor. Everyone's like tighten your pelvic floor. I'm like, what are they talking about?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Classes and stuff are in like Kundalini, tighten that pelvic floor. And I'm like, I think I'm doing it, but I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, and you're like introducing one of my favorite soapbox topics perfectly is that it should not be a muscle you have to think about using because it never was before it was injured. Right. So if all women are being offered is strengthening options that result in you having to think about it to get it working again. And that is not functional strength. And that is the best that was available before. So I don't believe any healthcare provider is doing their job without the best intentions. Everybody who gets into healing professions has the best intentions, but they don't know what they don't know. So those options were the best thing there was before.
So me that don't know much about the pelvic floor, and this is kind of a new subject to talk about, which everyone should know about, you hear about pelvic floor exercises.